Hello, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me today on this really fun series on the podcast. And I had this idea after doing all of this research and really understanding more about personality types and how people follow through and how some things work for one person and not for another person. And I really dove in with this research. And so what I wanted to do was showcase three different types of accountability. One is personal accountability, the second is peer accountability, and the third is paid accountability. Oftentimes we need all three of them at different seasons or for different projects, but what I wanted to do was showcase three examples of people who I believe have done this really well. And today you are in for a treat because my dear, amazing friend Danait is here. And Danait, I am so excited to talk about you with personal accountability. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited for this conversation. I really can't wait.
Me too. You were the person that I thought of immediately and admittedly reached out and said, okay, I know you're really busy, but can we fit this in? And it was one of those things that I was like, can we squeeze it into the time? And everyone's going to understand a little bit more about the time. But what I was able to witness as your friend, which is a really cool thing that I have just, we've become friends over these years, and I've been able to witness you go through a really substantial change in your life and in your business and with your schedule. And that was having your little daughter, Ellie. And I am just so excited to talk about how you navigated and decided to hold yourself accountable with changing your schedule coming back from maternity leave. But before we get into that, I would love for you to share just a little bit about yourself so people get context about who you are. So do you have personality types you'd like to share? Any qualifying pieces of information you'd like to share?
Yes. Okay. That's a really good question. The personality types that I know off the top of my head, Enneagram is 2 with balanced wings 1 and 2, which is weird. 1 and 3, because I'm an Enneagram 2 with balanced wings 1 and 3, which means that I am, the one side is like needs order and things done a specific way, really that perfectionist side. And then the 3 is like that hyper overachieving, wants to, perform at the highest levels all of the time. And so I'm always balancing between those two. So that's context that you will understand as I share. And then my Myers-Briggs, I am an INTJ. I always thought I was extroverted, and I am not. I think I'm an introverted extrovert.
I think you are for sure.
Yeah. That's like the context in terms of my personality. And then, I think we're going to talk about this, but just the way that I had been able to work in the past is very different from how I work now. And so I'm sure, like I said, we'll talk about it, but that also will help give people a lot of context as to why this is the route I chose in terms of my accountability and just being able to continue doing what I do.
Right. It's so interesting, and this is obviously a unique situation, and that's why I thought it would be really interesting to talk to you about all different types of accountability, but this one in particular, because you needed something different in a different season. So coming back from maternity leave, obviously there's a lot of things that are changing in that time. You were running a business before, you're still running a business now, and it looks very, very different. And so I just thought, let's dive in and really kind of take us through how you decided, okay, I'm going to, and maybe like when I say this, like I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm certain that that's not what you said to yourself in that
Yes.
moment, but how you discovered, like, this is how I'm going to approach changing my schedule. And I'm really excited that you utilized a very cool tool that we have at our disposal now, which is AI. So take us back to when you made that determination of what you were going to do.
Okay, so that's an excellent question. When I went on maternity leave, I knew that coming back would be very different. But because this was my first baby, first experience, I was not 100% sure how that would look. And to give context, before I went on maternity leave, I could work whenever I wanted. I had Monday through Friday open. My husband does have Wednesdays off. So typically I had Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and then he works on Saturdays. So I would use the Saturday morning to either work or do whatever. So I really had like a very open schedule. I could work 20 hours if I wanted to. I could work 40 hours if I wanted to. And I could decide when to fit in whenever. If I wanted to record a podcast episode, I wasn't feeling it on Monday, I could do it on Thursday. It wasn't very rigid. I didn't have to be very rigid, even though I did have like rhythms and themes for my work days. I didn't have to be. So coming back from maternity leave, I also was very fortunate and lucky enough that I didn't have to come back right away. I had quite a bit of time. And so I started to slowly come back around like 7 months postpartum. And for any moms out there, parents out there, you know that at that stage, children are still taking several naps a day. And sometimes those naps are not, super long. So I had to structure my days around naps. And what really made me think, okay, I think I am going to have to use a tool and I'm going to have to find a way to figure this out was when I was noticing that my days felt very frazzled and I felt like I have time, but I don't know where it's going. And I'm not really sure on some days I would be like, I don't think I have any time to work at all. So like, what am I going to do? And I think sometimes you need that third party to kind of give you that look in. And that's really what accountability is like allowing you to see from a different perspective. Okay, do you actually have the time or do you not? Because when you're in it, you either could go on either extreme, right? Where you're like, I have time. I don't know where it's going. Or you could be like, I don't have any time at all. I'm not going to be able to do anything. And so I was like, okay, either one of these things is true or none of them are true, but I am not able to objectively see what I have available to me and how I can use it and make that time work, whatever that time is. And so that's really like the first thing that made me go, okay, I'm trying to get things done in the day. I'm not really getting anything done. Do I actually have time to work? Or is this just not a season where I can work and I need a third party to kind of step in and give me like a bird's eye view of that? Does that make sense?
It does. Oh my gosh. I mean, and I love what you said of having that objectivity of a third party coming in and saying, okay. And I'm going back to being your friend and us talking on Voxer. And the first iteration of this is what I'm now laughing about. Like if people are watching the video, they can see like I'm smiling because I remember, I think this was the first version, that you were like, I'm going to use AI and I'm going to look at my schedule. And basically you were like, AI told me I don't have
Yes.
laughing, like, ha ha ha, you think you could do all these things and you actually can't. And I'm thinking that of like how interesting that is to think about using AI, which is the personal accountability. So that's not another human. We're using a tool, right? And so that is the personal accountability. But that's what I get to do as a coach. I don't laugh at people, obviously, but that objectivity of having that third party say, you're probably not seeing this 100% clearly because you're in the mucky middle of all the things.
Yes. And I think you definitely need that, whether you're using AI or you're working with someone. And I think when you are able to work with someone, I think that's the best route because a human is always going to be more understanding of the nuance of life than AI is going to be. But in the season of life I was in, I didn't have the time to like have a coach and have weekly coaching calls or things like that. And so for me, it made sense to start off, and I was just coming back into maternity leave. So I wasn't in the place to be like, oh yeah, I have all this time to work with someone or like find someone. I didn't even know if I had time to sit down and like write emails. So I was like, let's use AI. And that's where that Enneagram 3 comes in, where I am very over ambitious. And so I think that I can fit a lot more into a day than I actually can. And so when I was like, hey, and if for anyone listening who wants to kind of prompt AI in this way, I was basically like, you're a productivity expert and you're going to help me build a schedule for work while balancing being a mom and having, a baby with me 24/7. And I shared my schedule and what the days look like. And at the time I said 7 months, she was napping for about like 2.5 hours a day, but it was split between 2 naps. And sometimes one nap was longer than the other nap. So I didn't have like, okay, she is going to nap from this time and this time, and have like which for me was very hard because I'm someone who's like, okay, I need to know what's happening today. And then, and And that is really hard when you're trying to work, when you are like, okay, I might have an hour, but you only end up having 30 minutes to get something done. And so that's when I was like, these are all the things I want to do in the business. Like, this is my marketing stuff I'd like to do. And this is the weekly content I'd like to pump out. And AI was like, okay, there is not enough hours in the day for what you're trying to do. And I was like, okay. It was like, you're going to have to find an additional 10 hours. And I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, like I don't have that right now. And there's nowhere else I can scrounge that up from unless I choose to work on the weekends and spend my weekends working, which I didn't want to do. And so that meant that I had to really prioritize what was important and figure out, okay, what are the main like core things that I need to do to keep the business going? And everything else that was like a nice to do, like redo the website, was going to have to go on the back burner, like all these like things that were like, oh, all these delightful projects and rabbit holes we want to go down. It was like, yeah, you can't do all of those and you need to prioritize. And so that was like the first iteration. And yeah, I had to figure out, okay, what can fit in 2 hours of work a day? I had like 12 hours of work that I could do in a week, which was very, very challenging. And it meant that I had to like really whittle the business down to like the core essentials of marketing, delivery, sales, and like that was it. Like that's all I could do during those from 7 months till she was about like 8.
I'm going back and remembering those, like that frustration, and I'm just going to call attention to it
Yeah.
because I know that you would, and someone on the other side is listening to this, and maybe it's maternity leave, maybe it's some other situation in their life that they used to have more time to dedicate to pursuing a goal, whatever that goal is, or they wish they had more time right now. And that person is in that place. And the things that I'm hearing is, number one, you had to be very honest with yourself and with AI, because AI is not going to know what qualifying questions to ask. So you had to be honest about what you wanted to do, which was probably difficult, and because you didn't maybe know all the time or all the things. And then you had to like put all of those fun ideas on a shelf, which,
Yeah.
as I know from being your friend, that was very difficult.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And especially when you're like, okay, this is the thing that needs to happen in the business next, or this project is something that, you've been wanting to do, whether it's like creating a new offer or marketing in a new way or trying to start on a new platform or build on a specific platform. You're not able to do that because of your time constraints. It's very hard because then it feels like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to do what it takes to move the business forward. And what you find is actually that a lot of times you don't need to do as many things as you think you need to do. And I will say, there is a caveat to that. I have been in business for a while. And so for someone who's just getting started, this might mean that, you're going to have a slower start if you have the same kind of time constraints and you haven't had the chance to build up, a client base or a referral network or all of those things that I've had a lot of time to build up. And so for me, it was like, oh, okay, like I don't have to do all of the things that I think I need to do. And so whittling down was not as detrimental as I thought it was going to be to the business, but it was still very challenging to stay focused and to keep reminding myself that like, okay, this is literally the only 30 minutes that you have. What is the main thing that needs to happen? Even though my brain was like, oh yeah, we want to work on this side project and we need to like, overhaul our systems and operations. And it's like, yes, great idea. Love that. Like you have to put that on the back burner, and that's really hard to do for months and months at a time. And so, yeah, I think it's just being, like you said, very honest with yourself about what time constraints you have, and then being willing to let go of a lot of like the other things that you might want to be doing. And yeah, like creating a new offer is fantastic. And that's like a very exciting thing to do, and something that, you're doing because you want to serve people in a different way and you want to help more people. And it's like, nope, you can't do that right now. And it can be very, very frustrating.
It's so true. That frustration really comes in, and especially when it's like you said, months. Like that
Yeah.
takes it takes a toll on you, even though you were doing it for a great reason. Like it's not like you were upset at the reason that it was happening. It was a wonderful reason that you had less time for business stuff.
Yeah.
So you said something of like it was really hard to do some of those things when you're navigating with personal accountability, so you don't have that third party of another human who's saying, "Hey, how are things going?" all of that stuff. How did you hold yourself accountable in those moments that was really really difficult? How did you catch yourself when you started looking at website platforms and changes that you wanted to make when you really knew you needed to send a few referral emails or whatever the case was?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. For me, I think I do really well with structure. I do like to have like a routine and structure, and also reconnecting to the why and the goal of what I'm doing in that season is really important, because if I lose sight of that is when I start going down the rabbit holes. And so for me, every task that I put on my calendar, anything that I put in my project management system, has to be connected to a why of like, why is this part of our objectives or goals for the quarter? And so I look at like from a yearly perspective, either it's a maintenance year or it's a growth year. And the year that Ellie was born, that was like a maintenance year because
Core maintenance, because she was growing.
yeah, and like it was like that's not a season where I'm going to be out here increasing my marketing or whatever. And so reminding myself of that, like this is a maintenance year, and so this is why these are the tasks that we're working on and we're doing. So that was really important. And then also, if I came to the end of the week and like hadn't done any of the things that were a priority for that week, or I only was able to get a couple of them done, but I ended up doing a bunch of other things that weren't related to the priorities that I had set aside for that week, I would do a review of that week of why is that the case? Like, why did we not get all of these things done? Is it because you're not excited about these things anymore? Is it because this was just a week where you have to like allow yourself to go down those rabbit holes, and we're going to get back on track next week, and really just like assess whether these are the priorities that need to be the priorities, or if I'm getting too sidetracked by other things, and why am I getting sidetracked by those other things? And sometimes it's just, just those weeks where you're like, I just needed to have like that creative like brain break, and I just wasn't feeling any of these tasks, and next week I'm going to get back on board. And other times it's a mindset thing or something where I'm having resistance to doing specific projects because, they're important or they feel really big or whatever. And so I can work through those. So that's two. And the third thing that I think was so helpful for me was to create weeks based off of my energy levels. And so I have what I call ABC weeks. And A is like a week when I'm like on a high. I just love everything. I'm going to get everything done. I'm feeling so energetic. And so basically what I do is I'll have like whatever projects I have and whatever my weekly revenue generating things that I have to do are, and I will set up an A week where it's like you have all of the energy to do all of the things and you're gonna get all of them done. What does that week look like? A B week is where energy is not as high, not feeling that great, and typically this is like what people do when they're cycle syncing, which is how I kind of assess where my energy levels are going to be. And then I take those tasks and I say, okay, what is like a B week level of work that you could do? And then C is like, you have no energy and you're just like, I could care less about anything and I don't feel like doing anything, but I just want to sit around and just like lounge and not do. And then like, what is the C level of work that you could output for a week and still feel good about what you've done while still honoring how you're feeling, your body, all of those things. And that was a game changer once I decided to do that, because then I wasn't trying to force myself on weeks when I had super low energy and just my brain was foggy and I just was slogging through. That's not a week to be doing podcast episodes, because it's just not going to happen. It's going to take twice as long, but that's a week where I can edit podcast episodes and make sure they're ready to go to be published. Or that's a week where I can, create graphics, things that I don't need as much brain space to do. And so doing that was so helpful in making me accountable to the things that I said I wanted to get done. And by the end of the week feeling like, okay, yeah, this was this was a really productive week,
I love that, because productive, what we're saying is not it's a one size fits all. Productive can be an A week, B week, C week. And I love that you created this. And I remember you brainstorming this idea and I was thinking, this is genius. to think about it in this way. And then you can decide when you're planning that week, okay, what am I feeling like? Or pivot midweek, depending on how things change. I love that. So just the recap is like you're super honest with yourself. You knew you needed structure. So structure was what you got from AI. So you were able to work with AI to get the structure for the ABC weeks of what does productive, not just busy, what does productive look like for you? Because you knew you could be proud at the end if you were productive. Does that sound about right?
Yes, 100%.
Fantastic.
That's exactly how that went. It's not a linear path. I had to redo this over and over.
I was just about to say, do you remember or have a guess of how many times you revised this?
Yes, every time that Ellie's schedule changed in any way. Now we're in a good place where we also have childcare a couple times a week, which is a huge help. So I have like 22 to 25 hours a week to work now, which is like,
look at you go.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wow, I had like double the amount of time that I have to work. So now I get to have more of that space and focus time. And I'm not just like trying to do things in between nap times. And she is down to one nap and it's a longer nap. So I can like get admin things done during that time or just rest and like recoup on those days. And so, yeah, I've had to revamp it every time things changed in our day-to-day life. And every time I do that, I like get to have more time to do things, but also reassess priorities as well. Figure out, okay, what are the main things and what are the things that I can fit into this time? Because again, it's not a 40-hour work week. It's a part-time schedule essentially, but I still get what I used to get done in 40 hours in 20 hours because of the time constraints that I have. And I know this is my one day to get this done, like zone in and focus. And I'm not scrolling, because I'm like, okay, I can't scroll. Like I can't waste that time. It's like precious, So yeah, it's been an iterative process over the last year,
Right. And I think people needed to hear that too, of like, it's not a set it and forget it thing. When we're looking at schedule changes or anything, in my opinion, when it comes to like setting the plan to pursue a goal, I don't know anyone who's ever been like, I set the plan and it went perfectly. If so, please come on the podcast because I would like to talk to you.
Yes, we would all like to know.
Yes, we would all like the secret sauce here. And so I think it's really important to hear someone else say like, oh yeah, it definitely did not work 100% of the time, or set it and forget it type of a thing. So as we're kind of wrapping this up and thinking about, okay, you held yourself accountable for this. I am very curious because I think a lot of people listening to this series will be curious to hear from everyone of how do you determine, can I hold myself accountable? Do I need a friend? Like you and I talking on Voxer, we hold each other accountable for things all the time. Or do I need to hire someone? Do you have any types of reasons for going for one or the other?
Yes. So one other thing I will say is have a lot of grace with yourself and don't beat yourself up if you can't maintain the schedule that you're setting for yourself or things don't work out. Like you have to have grace. Be truthful with yourself when, things are not working and it's like, okay, this has been a little while that we've been doing this, it's not working. Like have grace with yourself, but also be honest and be willing to like adapt with that. And then when I know that I need to have accountability outside of myself is when I'm consistently not accomplishing the projects, tasks, and goals that I set for myself. So if I go an entire quarter where I'm like, yeah, like none of these things got done and I'm like re-putting the same projects and goals on my list for the next quarter, then that's like, that's like, why is that happening? And that's when it's time to like assess. And especially in a 90-day timeline, if you go the first month, it's like, okay, cool, things didn't really work out the way I wanted this month. Let's try that again the next month. And again, you're finding that you're still having the same projects on the list. Things aren't moving forward. You're not actually checking anything off and you still have the same goals and things aren't moving forward. That's the time to be like, okay, like what's going on here? Reassess. By the third month, if we are still having the same things on the list, then I'm like, okay, I think that this is a situation in which either I am not setting goals appropriately for the season of life I'm in, or I need to be held accountable by another human being because I'm finding that I'm like doing the same thing over and over and not really getting anywhere, that's when I would say that that's time to be like, okay, things are, whenever you feel like, I feel like I'm doing stuff, but I'm not really moving forward and I'm stuck in the same place and I'm kind of spinning my wheels and it feels like I've had this goal for, you know, a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, and that's still the same goal that I'm trying to accomplish. That's when it's time to like bring in a third party, because there might be things that you're just like not able to see and those are your blind spots, and you need someone who can be like, actually, this is probably the problem. And that's so helpful because then you can actually start to gain momentum, which is what we want, you know, and that's the whole point of us like setting goals in the first place, right?
Right. I love that. So if you're a quarter or 2 on the same goal, it's like, okay, let's ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think it's so great. And I think a lot of us need to go through almost, not that we have to go through all 3 in order to like figure something out, but sometimes we start by ourselves and we're like, okay, I tried. And then we reach out to a friend, which is that peer accountability. And it's like, okay, Danait, I told myself I was going to do this thing and I haven't done it. I'm going to tell you about it because I know you'll ask me about it in a month or so.
Yeah.
And then if that still doesn't work, then I need to pay for someone to check on me all the time.
Yes.
And I'll make it happen.
Yes, have some skin in the game. And I always find that that has been very powerful for me in different seasons of my life and my business, is like having some skin in the game where you're paying to have some, like, because then you're like, okay, I need to buckle down, take this serious.
Right.
And you'll be surprised at how many things, you know, move forward once you've got some skin in the game. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of assessing and being honest with yourself about what type of accountability you need in different seasons.
Yeah. And I'll say, because I feel like we all need this, so at least every single one of my clients have always needed it. There's no shame in needing support on the other side of that. I was like, there's no shame in this.
Yeah.
It's just like asking for help with anything else, which is hard for a lot of women. I will say that, but we need the help. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yes. And especially when you're doing big things and putting yourself out there like you are by running a business, it's like a very vulnerable thing to do, to consistently sell and put yourself out there, create new offers and show up all the time, even when you don't really feel like it or are struggling to. That's like a very emotionally and mentally taxing space to be in. And having accountability just alleviates some of that pressure, and you have like that person in your corner as opposed to like trying to do it all yourself. And so yeah, there's definitely no shame in that. It's not because you can't do it for yourself or you're incapable. It's just that entrepreneurship is a very taxing thing and something that requires so much of people that having someone else like step in to like support and carry some of that mental, emotional load for you is just makes things a little bit easier and makes it so that you can go further faster instead of trying to slog through it all by yourself, because that is a challenge, I will say.
Amen to that, friend.
Yeah.
Amen to that. So there are many people listening to this, but I want you to speak to the one person who she is listening to this and is like, okay, I heard Danait talk about using AI to help me with my schedule or to help me with a plan of how to tackle this thing, and I'm ready to do it. What would you encourage her to do today? Not tomorrow, but today, if she wants to hold herself accountable to taking the next steps forward?
Okay, that's a really, really good question. I would say to first and foremost, be gracious with yourself and like really take a look at your life from an outside perspective. Sometimes we don't realize how much we're taking on or how much we're carrying and the amount of work we're doing. And especially as women, a lot of times we're very quick to dismiss all of the things on our plate and be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I'm helping this family member, I'm caretaking this person, and I'm also juggling a full-time job and trying to run a bit, like, you know, and it's like if someone else were to see that, they'd be like, okay, that's quite a lot. And I've had to hear that from friends a lot of times where they're like, please remember, you are doing a lot already. So take a moment to like take stock of your life and what it is that you have on your plate and recognize yourself for that. And then be very honest about what capacity you have to move your goals forward. And like I said, whether you need to use AI, whether it's a pen and paper, whether it's Voxering with a friend, just being very honest about, this is how much time I actually have to do things. This is what I would like to be doing. And then just kind of compare and contrast and say, okay, is that possible with the time that I have? And if the answer is no, then it's time to assess what is a priority, what's urgent, what things are actually the most important thing that need to happen, and then fitting those in in ways that feel good? And if the answer is yes, actually I can do all of these things, then it's a matter of looking at, okay, how am I using my time, and maybe doing a time assessment. But those would be where I would start. First, kind of being gracious with yourself, taking stock of what you currently have on your plate, really recognizing like, okay, what is it that I'm carrying right now, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, whatever, and then assessing, okay, what do I want to do and how much capacity do I have to do those things, and then moving forward from there. And also assessing, do I need help with being able to do these things and make these goals possible? Am I going to need to bring someone in to help hold me accountable and be that person in my corner? And if the answer is yes, then bringing that on board and bringing that support on board so that you can actually achieve what you're hoping to accomplish.
Fantastic. Thank you for outlining that. So the person listening today that wants to do this is first going to give themselves grace, and then they're going to be honest about the time. That's what I do believe that everyone can do today. And creating that plan and moving forward with it may take more than just today.
Yes.
But getting honest about your time and what you want, why it's important, that is all things someone can do in the next 15 minutes.
Yes.
And so that's a great ask forward, and I just really appreciate it. Danait, thank you so much for spending your time with me today and with everyone listening, and for sharing so much of your story.
Well, of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was fantastic.
It always is good talking to you. And I also know people are going to want to know what you're up to. So where can they find you on the internet and learn more about you?
I am usually on Instagram, so you can find me at Danait PG in stories, usually chit-chatting away in DMs with people. So yeah, feel free to reach out and connect over there.
I'll make sure it's in the show notes. And thank you all for listening today. Thank you for spending your time with us. We know you have choices when it comes to listening to podcasts, and we appreciate you listening to us today. And so I want you to move forward with Danait's action today, and I want you to think about what you want and give yourself grace with what you already have on your plate, and think about what you want, be honest about it, and then move forward. Do the dang thing, my friend. You can do it. Move forward, be honest, and keep being accountable.